It was crowded and overwarm in the dance hall in Independence, Missouri, when Evangeline stepped inside. But tonight there was no dancing, no music. The cavernous room was packed with bodies, many of them unwashed, judging by the overwhelming scents that attacked her nose. Several heads turned in her direction, eyes fixed on her, and she felt a tremble of nervousness. Every person in this room was just like her. At least that's what she told herself. This meeting was for travelers who had paid and been approved to travel on Hollis Tremblay's wagon train, leaving Independence tomorrow morning. And Evangeline was going with them, starting a new life.
Sissy?
Evangeline looked down into the face of the young girl clinging to her hand. Worried brown eyes looked up at her. Sarah clutched a faded rag doll in her other hand, while Evangeline clutched a thick tome to her midsection. Evangeline squeezed Sarah's hand in reassurance. She wasn't used to being in this press of bodies. Neither was Evangeline. But they'd make do. They had to. "Our seats are right over there," she murmured with a nod forward and to the left, right in the middle of the room, near the front so they could see. The wooden chairs had been theirs when they'd left. Evangeline preferred to be punctual and had, in fact, been a half-hour early for this meeting. She and Sarah had been nearly alone in the dance hall. Everything had been going just as Evangeline planned, until Sarah had whispered that she needed the washroom. After a trek back to their hotel, they'd returned minutes late, though the meeting didn't seem to have started, to find the dance hall packed. Families of all shapes and sizes filled the room. A mother bent over several young children clustered at her feet, scolding them. A father stood against the wall, his arms folded. Two teenaged boys stood in an identical stance, and the uncanny resemblance to the man so obviously their father made Evangeline want to smile. Rough-looking men were scattered among the crowd, too. One man with dark hair and an unkempt beard let his eyes linger on Evangeline for far too long as she scooted past him. She averted her eyes quickly, but felt his unsavory gaze linger. When she and Sarah reached the seats they'd vacated minutes ago, they found them occupied. There had been no one around to ask to save her seat when she'd left for Sarah's sake. What now? A shrill whistle rang out over the noise of the crowd. "Good evening." A deep male voice followed. The murmur of the voices faded. Some people hissed, "Shh!" Heat rushed into Evangeline's cheeks as she realized she had no seat, and she was awkwardly blocking several folks from being able to see the man who was speaking. She'd considered leaving her book on the chair, but it was too valuable to be left behind. Now she tugged Sarah by the hand as she hurried toward the back of the hall, embarrassed as she felt the gazes of nearly everyone she passed. Several people were standing at the back of the room. She would have to do that too. Emotion knotted in her throat. She'd planned to be closer. What if she missed something important because she couldn't hear? Her gaze caught on a woman who must be only a little older than Evangeline's 20 years. She sat on the second row from the back wall. She nudged the man beside her, her husband, who scowled at her. The woman nodded to Evangeline, still sidestepping toward the back, and whispered something to him. He looked up, his blue eyes locking on Evangeline.